And boom, boom, we are live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Inspiring Insights with Stephen DeSadie, the live experience with Stephen DeSadie. My name is Peter Clark, Red TV. Okay, now we got to go across the pond. Well, actually, I don't know if it's across the pond to you. It's a couple ponds for you, Stephen.
It's a fairly hefty stone's throw. Let's just say that.
It's hefty. I love that. And we're going to bring Zara in. So Zara, let's see if Zara, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good to see you. And it's like 1:45 or 1:45 or 1:45?
Yeah, 1:45.
1:45 in
1
England.
minute to go. Yeah.
God love you for being here. We so appreciate you being here and being patient and sitting in the green room waiting for us. Okay, I'm going to leave you with Stephen for your question. Go right ahead.
Thank you so much.
So I'm doing this service leadership model, which is kind of army based, I suppose, for those who are in the know. I do get a little bit confused when you start looking at law of attraction, and also when you focus on the positive and you're chasing something. So when it comes to pricing models, how do you go about that? Because whatever you chase goes away.
Mm.
Whether you chase people, whether you chase money, whether you chase, I don't know, contacts, whatever it is, whatever you chase, it goes away. And it seems to be the other way around, that if you just go with the flow, they come.
Yep.
So when you come to doing your pricing, how do you go about that? Because if you say, I'm going to charge you this amount, you are asking. So would you suggest they leave a contribution? You know, this is where I'm kind of going, how do you go about doing your pricing? It's very confusing. It's quite a complicated scenario. It's like a paradox almost.
Are you married? Do you mind if I ask you if you're married?
I am married, yes.
Okay. Do you mind if, and I'm not going to be disrespectful in my questioning, but when your husband and you first met,
yeah,
how did you fall in love with him?
How did I fall in love?
And if this line of question, I'm not going to be disrespectful in this line of questioning, but I want to take this out of your head and ask you about the most beautiful thing in your life. And have you got kids?
I've got one child. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, cool. So let's go all the way back to when some hunky fella saw a beautiful lady wherever he saw you. How did you fall in love with him?
Well, funny enough, we met in a nightclub.
That's all right.
And I was dancing on the dance floor, and I was being harassed by some people, and he kind of rescued me. He said, well, can I buy you a drink? So it was kind of like that. And then we started chatting and we realized we had quite a lot in common. And we kind of, I guess, became friends to start with.
Yeah.
So it was let's see, all right, we've got quite a lot in common. And yeah, it was a beautiful friendship straight away.
Okay.
So yeah, nobody went chasing after anybody. It was more like, I want to help you out here.
Yep. Well, he chased a little bit because that's what's supposed to happen. It's the way it's wired. Let's hope so.
He was on the watch out to know that was the opportunity.
Okay, cool. So one of the things is, when you asked me about in fact, I won't digress. Let me do this for a second. You had something in common, which created a friendship, which is the opportunity of your relationship together, your marriage together, and now the beautiful son or daughter?
I've got a little boy.
A little boy. So the opportunity of having a life, the opportunity of having love, the opportunity of having a child, which is the union of your love and your life. Beautiful, fantastic. All of this represents an outcome.
Okay.
And I'm going to go back to outcome. Steve always talks about outcomes. Yeah, cool. Why is it that people used to sleep in the street, and still to a degree sleep in the street to buy an iPhone, when everyone knows there's other phones on the market that are better? Because they created a sense of common community. Why is it that we're creating soul shifters? Why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing right now? Is it to catch people and eventually get people to pay for stuff? No. If you want to go up and start coaching with me one-to-one, if you want to start getting into round tables with me, if you want to buy courses from me, yeah, it'll cost. But down at the bottom of my engagement is the community of common interests of people who want to enhance and improve themselves.
Yeah.
To make a friendship of a movement in a community because of the opportunity.
Yeah, so and that's what I'm doing. I'm going with the value at the moment. Just to interrupt here, I get approached by other people who tell me I've got a money block. And then it makes me think, and I think, what are they talking about? I'm after a value here. I'm not after money. I'd rather do a like-for-like service at any time when the opportunity presents itself.
Yep.
So when people start talking about money blocks and I don't know, other kind of things, it really throws me. And I do think there are two types here. You know, you've either got this, like you said earlier, you either set your price right to the beginning and then people either buy it or they don't, or you kind of, you know, treat them as somebody who, if they want to stay, they stay, almost like a guest in your house, and they go when they're fed up with you.
Yep. Part of the thing that we do, and you'll hear this the more you're around me, I never talk about Dasadie clients. I talk about guests. Never do I use the word client. I treat people as a guest. Gratitude, union, example of my expertise, starts at first contact and timeless. One of the things that you need to do, and if Michelle's watching, she's supposed to ask me about mindset and mindsight. And I might actually do this right now, and save Michelle asking me the question. Most people's mindset is on cost and value, time and money. What's it going to cost me in time and money? And value is almost in lowercase.
No, so I'm more value. I do think about time as well, because I need to look after my time. I'm trying to balance a house here and a child and God knows what else.
I understand that. Everybody does. But the first thing that you've got to address is that 98% of the population, although that's been interrupted with everything that's happened, and not just the COVID thing, but the whole disruption to the way that we do life at the beginning of 2020 is very different now. So the mindset of most people is around cost, time and money. So guess what? You've got a 98% chance of someone saying that if you lead with value, or what's your cost proposition? I've got people that are telling me I should charge $100,000 for what I do. Yeah, okay. How am I going to help people who have got children that they're asking me for help for and other things that I can't go into right now? So one of the things that you need to do is understand, I get what you just said about I'm a value person. I understand that, but we're getting into mindset. Most people's mindset is on cost and time and money. Yeah. And if you don't lead with a dollar value, they think something's wrong. And they're the people that are out there trying to get you to put your email address in, because they're standing in front of a pool saying, if you give me your details, I'll teach you how to get one of these. And no one believes them anymore. Yeah. And no one really did. So what you need to do is actually have a mindset, a vision of what you're in your head about what is the value that you're trying to create, and give momentum to that, understanding that 98% of people are going to slowly have to shift.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So one of the things you need to do is actually accept that that's true. Then you need to accept that, from my point of view, if we go back to what we said with Jairus's outcome is very, very focused. Mm-hmm. And as I've said often on the show, probably before you found out about us, and it may have been one of the two of the shows that you watched, most people are standing on the platform of life trying to get the train to stop and get everyone to come off the train, or get everyone to like as it flashes by. I'm looking for the 2% of people who understand what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't care about the other 98%, because guess what? If there's 1 billion people online at any one time, and I once did this with Gary Vaynerchuk, who puts out a video and gets 300 views in 5 minutes or whatever, and I did the numbers on it. The number of people that are watching his video, assuming they're all watching it, is 0.00008% of who's online at any one time. And how many people would like to have the notoriety for the value conversion he could put if for want of the way he does what he does? So the end result is, if you had 2% of people that you deal with all saying, yes, I want to buy from you, for example, I want to buy into your value, you won't be able to handle it. So the very first thing you need to do is have a mind shift that if you're into value, I'm for you. If you're into time and money and price as the number one lead, I'm not for you. I'm not your train.
Yeah.
And then what you do, you get your mind, your heart, your confidence, your clarity, your confidence, and your creativity focused on this.
Yeah.
I have people mostly every week. Good old Trev, love him to bits, and I know he's watching in Western Australia. Trev's always saying, Steve, the commercial model, and I respect him for it, and I understand what he means, and the fact that he keeps niggling me about it, I love him for it. But what I'm doing with the commercial model is different to the commercial model that comes from the corporate world he comes from.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, I love him to bits, and I speak to him once or twice a week to get him to keep pushing me, to keep reminding me that it's there. Because what you don't want to do is get so heartfelt about the value, you forget about the time and money you put in to be able to do your version of this.
Yeah. I get that.
So the very first thing is you need to make a mind shift that if these people are talking time, money, and price, they're not your train, forget about them. And guess what? 98% of people you're going to forget about because they're still thinking it's an actual time and money pricing thing. But the good thing right now is there's a lot of people now opening their eyes because of what's happened around COVID, because of what's happened in terms of having to shift the fundamentals of how we work. The opportunity for heart-based, value-based businesses and value-based individuals running those businesses like you has never been higher because the journey, who would have thought at the beginning of 2020 would all have to work from home?
No.
Now, there's a whole pile of discussion around that, but there's a portion of those people on the periphery of this circle that are now starting to be open about this. What you've got to do is three things. Number one, be really value-focused. Number two, create content that is always exactly like, and you'll see this inside of Shifters over the coming weeks, that exit to entry strategy. And you're giving away and you're giving away and you're giving away very high value content. So you create, in fact, I did this with Michael. Hey, Michael, how you doing? Thanks for the time again. You end up creating yourself as a VAA, a value added asset in someone's life that's beyond their business. If you want your business to be rock solid, you have to go beyond someone thinking of you as a product service provider and thinking of you as someone who's a product service advisor that can help me. Yeah. That's what you want. That's what you were aiming for. And the sentiment I can hear from you and all the different exchanges you had with Lou from the Angels about what questions should I ask and how should I do all of this, the fact that you put a post out asking people what question do you think I should ask him, that tells me you have a heart-centered value. Yeah. But maybe your background in the corporate world is so focused on this because you've had to, and I had to do that in my time back in England. I was a corporate consultant, it was all about time and money and stuff. And thank God I moved out of that. So one of the things you need to do is what is the value proposition of the content that you provide, which is in a very specific guide base, so you become a value-added asset to people.
Yeah.
And all the stuff inside of Soul Shifters is going to help you to understand how to do that. And if you look at the video I posted there yesterday about what's your brand expression in terms of experience, example, and what do they earn from it, go and watch that video. And a more detailed version of that's coming out. That was just a subset of what I did with Michael. So number one, 98% of your engagement with people is going to feel as if it's not working. So what? Mm-hmm. So let me do this. Zara A, 98% of what you're going to do is going to feel as if you're failing because people keep saying about the pricing model and you've got a block. That's good. People don't like the color blue, but my show's in blue. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I don't. So, and I don't say that disrespectfully. I know what I'm doing and you know what you're doing and some of the stuff I saw leading up to this. Number B, item B is you need to make a mind shift that if those people say time and money, you're not my train. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah. Trevor on face value may not look like my train because he constantly tells me about you got to get commercial, got to get commercial, got to get commercial. But I love him for it and I ring him up asking him to do it. He drives me mental sometimes, but I actively seek him, keeping me grounded in it. Otherwise, I could get so loving and heartfelt I'd disappear into the woo-wah of mindfulness and all that stuff said respectfully. A, understand 98%. B, shift your mind. C, to producing high-value content and becoming a value-added asset by being able to story tell about what you've learnt from the shift from being a price model cost person into a heart-valued centered person. This is the game. You become a value-added asset in people's life, game on. And from all of the comments I saw very quickly this morning when I was going through all the different things, and I know you posted your question, I didn't read it, you'll notice I didn't like it. As soon as I saw this is my question, I didn't want to know because I want to do this on the spot. I liked everything else, and the reason I liked it is because the one thing I want you to do, this is your homework assignment, said very respectfully, my lady. I want you to go through the last half dozen posts that you've put out and read every single comment and pick out the words that touch your heart. And I know you're a clever enough lady that you're not going to glow in the accolades of people saying you're amazing. You're going to be looking, remember what I said to Jairus, what are they asking you for? What are they admiring you about? And you'll see the ones that it's the typical social media stuff where I appreciate you and they're just spitting it out as fast as they can. So hopefully you'll do it back to them. I'm talking about the ones that touch your heart and soul. And when you get that list of words, you start going, that's where my value is. That's where my content comes from. That's where I can create a value-added asset. And then bolted right next to that is the product and service that you provide. People don't care how much you know, but they want to know how much you care, and they'll invest into your sentiment before they'll invest into your product.
Okay.
Wow.
I think it's mainly around values, to be honest. I think it seems to be whenever I write a story and it sort of touches on humanity and anything to do with us all being equal, and that seems to be where it gets everybody. Just from the top of my head, but yes,
just expand on that. Gets everybody for a sec.
Well, I mean, I don't have to tag anybody, and I don't. Sometimes, I get confused about this tagging thing because sometimes people like to be tagged, but then do you tag them for recognition? Are you tagging them to come and like your post? So I've decided not to tag people anymore, and so I just see who comes. One of
the things that Lou, who's the engagement director for DeSadie, does, Jane creates all the content awareness.
Yeah.
Lou distributes all the content engagement, which is part of the reason she engages with you to get on the show, etc. What we do with tagging, because we do tag, anyone that comments gets tagged. If you tag, we'll go, okay, cool. If you don't tag, we won't.
Right.
And what Lou will do is if people have actually not responded to a couple of posts after they initially tag, we take them off.
Right. Okay. That
cool,
makes sense.
Because I'm standing on the platform of life, and if you look out the window and wave at me, Lou and Jane, the angels, are going to wave back with me helping them. But if you don't wave at us, we're not going to go, hey, by the way, tag. We don't. So for everyone watching, if you want to use tagging effectively with courtesy as a guest, if someone tags, tag them back. If someone stops tagging after a couple, stop tagging them. On the weekends, we put out content purposely, and we're doing DeSadie Shorts that are coming out at the beginning of next week, which are 15-second cuts out of the show. And what it actually says is, if you find this, you were meant to. That's it. We don't tag anyone. Because how powerful is it if you found it and you go, wow, what a great line that is. Yes, and the universe sent you here. We didn't tag you. Be so confident in your ability to shift another one's soul because you actually discovered what's in yours.
Yeah. So I've had people come along second, third removed from me, and then they saw something, probably because it was a hashtag or second or third removed. And it's mainly one of the stories that I've written, and it's about, something in my life that's happened.
Yep.
And it's kind of almost in a poetic fashion, to be honest. It gets people. It's either sounds romantic or it's humanity. That's what I mean by getting people, because people are coming and liking it, or it's getting me that additional, extra network, so we can grow more that particular day.
Stephen, sorry, and I got to jump in here, Zara, because I'm hearing something, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just going to tell you, as a content creator, I've been doing this for 12 years of my life. This is how I make actually a living and pay for my house, is creating content.
Yeah.
So I hear, and I could be wrong, but I hear you trying to figure out what to post. That's what I'm hearing. I should post this because I seem to be getting stuff when the blah, 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 blah. I'm going to tell you something from my experience. Let me just share my experience in life. 12 years of creating content. 12 years. Okay. And I used to be I still am a musician. It's like, I wonder what song someone wants to hear right now. I wonder what kind of song I can make that's a hit. I think I should write this. This is what seems to be out there right now. So I'll do that. Man, oh man, I'll tell you, you cannot be chasing what you think people might like. You got to put out content and create content that comes from you, only in service of you, in wanting to service other people. That's my opinion. That's my, but I'm thinking I'm hearing you say I should post this or that.
Stephen did just ask me what kind of post do people like, because I do post all sorts of stuff. And to be honest, do you know how I post? I wake up in the morning if I've got a problem, or let's call it challenge, because nobody likes to call it problem these days. If I'm facing a challenge, I seem to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I take 2 hours to figure it out. And then at 5 o'clock, I become creative, and then I write about it. And usually, if I wake up at 3, I know, oh gosh, I'm in for a long day here. You know, we got something to deal with. But usually, I wake up knowing exactly what I'm writing about.
Cool. Great.
So
stay with that. Stay with that.
Some kind of intuition, to be honest.
Stay with that.
There are other days where I just think, oh, you know, I just think of this song, or as I'm thinking about it, I just, let's look up that song. And I post nonstop all day long, to be honest, sometimes, and sometimes I don't. It kind of, they say you should be consistent. I'm like, well, no, I don't like following rules. I've never have done. I feel like doing this. I'm going to do this today. And, you know, let's see what happens.
Follow your heart.
Yeah, I do.
Michelle had asked me about this, and I wanted to say this because part of the reason why my first course is called Mindset Mastery is because of what I'm going to do, and I've written it all out so we can do this a little quicker. Mindset is a specific expected target, and there's nothing wrong with mindsets, nothing. But people's mindset at the beginning of 2020 and in the last decade of corporate world is, what is the cost of the time and money of what I've got to do? In one sense, and there's many ways you can do it. Mindset is a specific expected target. In Desadey Land, we talk about mindset mastery. And one of the things we talk about inside the academy is, how do you educate people? What is your story with sight? So sight is, to me, in Desadey Land, vision. What is your story? What are you trying to illustrate? What glimpse are you giving people of your product, service, or even your content? What hope are you giving them, and what tactic are you taking away? If you've noticed on every one of my shows, I call them homework assignments and stuff, when I talk to Peter or when I talk to the angels, when I talk to anyone, even if I'm sitting in a coffee shop, as I was yesterday, and someone comes and asks me, what is it that you're doing? I scribble on a napkin and give them something to do. It's a tactic. Zara, when you tell your story, you create relatability. When you illustrate something in your life, you give people a vision of what could be in theirs. And Jairus, this is the same for you. When you give someone a glimpse of what your product, service, your story, what your hope that you're trying to illustrate, you give them something to interact with in the way that you were interacting with Peter just a few moments ago. Pete's talking about his music and how he does it, and you interacted back with him because he gave you a glimpse into what he does in his life. When you show someone hope, they can convert that to faith by the nature of the way you conduct yourself. And if you give someone a tactic, you give them something to actually dialogue with you about when they come back. So soul shots, for example, pick up your phone and shoot a video and do this. So people did it. Every single time I post, I'm giving people some type of tactic to do. Every single time. So mindset is a specific expected target. And for some people, they haven't actually realigned that their mindset needs to be adjusted, because our mindset in 2020, January 1, was, I'm going to do 5 days a week, 9 to 5, commuting in the morning, home and back. And guess what? That specific expected target got changed by an invisible force. Rightly or wrongly, all those types of things. Mindset mastery is your ability to relate to people in your story, give them a vision by what you're illustrating, interact with them by what you give them as a glimpse of something they can do, have the faith, give them faith by having a hope that you're there for them, and then give them some tactic in a dialogue. So everyone out there, gift from Zara, who stayed up so late into the night, thank you so much. When you're creating content, when you're creating copy for your content, when you're commenting, use a collection of these, but never, ever, ever, ever forget this one. Ever forget this one. Pete.
Wow. That's great stuff right there, Stephen. That's great stuff right there. And of course, triggered by Zara. I'm going to bring Zara back in a second here, as well as Jairus. I'm giving you a heads up, Jairus. I'm going to bring you back as well, my friend. I hope you're still there. That is so super important to, like you said, just how you engage with people, the kind of content you create, all that kind of stuff. And I'll bring Zara back on in a second here, but I just wanted to make sure no one heard differently there. There was no challenge to what someone's posting. I'm just sharing my own personal experience of, as a content creator, I struggle with that daily as well. And I always think, well, what should I post today? Or what I'm thinking about this, should I post that or whatever? All I'm suggesting to anybody who is looking to create content and trying to figure that out, it's the cliche. Unfortunately, I have to throw out a cliche. So you just gotta be you and just put it out there. And you know what, Stephen? What's really interesting about what Zara talked about pricing wise? Did not we have this conversation privately last week about someone who reached out to me and said, "Hey, I like what you do there with that Stephen DeSadie thing, and can you push a few buttons for me? What would that be?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know where to start with it. How much does that cost?" So I'm thinking like, oh God, I don't even know where to start with that question. But anyway, by the way, I'm not against that question. My point is like right away it jumps to price, and right away I'm like, oh God, if that's what you're seeing, you're just seeing price. I need to figure out a way to explain myself around that as well. So that to Zara's point about talking about pricing as being a block, for me, I'm the same thing. I can relate to that completely.
And same for me. It's part of the reason Trevor kicks me about it all the time, and bless him for doing it.
Right.
Same for me.
Right.
For me.
How much does that cost, Peter? How much that cost?
But the reason, well, and then people will turn around and say, "Oh, Steve, you should be charging 20, 30 grand for what you do. You're amazing," and all that stuff. I go, "Okay, give me 20 grand for this conversation." "Oh, I haven't got any money." Oh, by the way, when was the last time you actually charged $5 grand for someone? And I know there's stuff like that out there and all those things, but there's a reason why the Tony Robbins and the Dean Graciosis are putting out courses for $59 and all that kind of stuff. The other thing is have some actual heart and sentiment for, like a lot of the footballers and stuff here in Australia and even over NBA, these big fancy people driving around. Lewis Hamilton, bless him, they're getting paid a fortune to do what they do, while some people are watching them on a cable connection that's going to run out because they haven't got a job. Yeah. So you need to be mindful that you're not out trying to cost what your value is when you haven't set your value, and that's the point. Set your value, and people will contribute their value by the way they invest in it, as opposed to this is what I cost, come and get it. That's a great concept if you live in a corporate structure that's used to paying you for time and money. Because if this was about time and money, we all wouldn't be working as entrepreneurs or small business owners. We wouldn't be getting up like Zara at 3 a.m.
Yes.
Thinking about things, because when you're working for the man or woman, and you're getting a paycheck, you typically are not woken up at 3 a.m, because that's just not how it works.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to bring Zara and Jairus back in a couple seconds. Before we go, I just want to throw up a couple quick more comments here that we have here. Let me just throw up a couple of things. 2% return in marketing is a massive number. 3% is usually unheard of. Okay. Thank you, Doug. Heart-based mind shift from Laurie there.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Laurie, Lou, let's ask Laurie to come on the show with comments like that. Love to share some time with you.
There's Remarkable Steve. Of course, it's Remarkable Steve. Post your soul. Hey, post your soul. Hey, for creating content, post your soul. I love that. I love that. That's great. Got a little throw out there. Okay, that was just yes, Peter. Mostly it's yes, Peter. Oh, from the heart, Peter. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's okay. Enough of that. That's enough of Peter. Thank you. I appreciate all those comments. So, Stephen, again, the congruency part, this is why it still comes back to all of this. I mean, I love what Zara talked about. I mean, it comes back to content, how you express yourself, what you're posting, who you're commenting with. You talked about the people that you on LinkedIn might actually tag and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's really, really important to make sure that there's a congruency to how we present ourselves, all of us, by the way. So I just thought that was really interesting how you position that. Okay, let's bring back our guests quick.
Can I just say something to Zara really quickly?
Of course.
Zara, what you waking up and trusting your heart and just spontaneously creating content and spontaneously going to messaging that you want, all you need to do, because I get the impression because of the project stuff and some of the language and structure of how you were asking and inquiring about what happens on the show, and what you need to do is 3 things. You have this ability to be able to express yourself, and you don't like boundaries, you don't like rules. I'm going to do who I am, and I love that, which is great. What you need to do is apply that to the consciousness of your corporate background and start moving into the next part of what you're doing on the basis that someone could come across the dance floor and have something in common, be a great friend, and create the opportunity that's called your love affair with your child. I think it's beautiful. So what you should do is be mindful that corporate structure that you've got, don't trash it, but start dominating it.
Love that. Okay, so we're winding down to the end of the show, everybody. As the producer, I got to step in. I'm sorry about that. So Jared, Jairus, I can say Jared. I'm sorry. My really good friend of mine's son is Jared. I have him on my mind today for some reason. Anyway, Jared, but Jairus Tucker. So glad you stuck around, my friend. What we do at the end here, we always like to just go quickly ask for anything that you might have picked up throughout the show. Because when you come in, we're not really sure. I guess we're all really not sure how it's going to unfold. And it's always wonderful to hear at the end of it, maybe something that you heard or you got yourself while you were interacting with Stephen, or maybe something you heard throughout the show. Give me an aha moment that you might have had something from today.
Something that resonating very well with me is when Stephen said, okay, I understand where I'm at. It's okay to be where I'm at, and it's okay to understand that everybody may not be where I'm at, but I have to figure out a way to maybe even not bring, I think where I was messing up with, I think I was trying to bring everybody up to where I'm at instead of just helping them get to where their at is, or where, you know, I feel like I'm here, just bring them to up here in their universe of their reality.
Love that. Oh, that's a big one, by the way, my friend. That's a big one. Again, I think I heard you just say, I was trying to bring them where I'm at, generally speaking, and now you're thinking I need just to elevate and amplify and lift them up to where they need to be within their own best selves, right? I love that. I love that. Man, yes, it's going to be a good day tomorrow at work tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
I sense it. Zara, thank you so much for staying. My goodness, it's like in the middle of the night there. So thank you so much for bringing it here. Let me make sure. Am I got your microphone? Oh, there you are. Microphone.
I was going to say, thank you for having me.
Oh, well, we super appreciate it. So give us a quick little aha from either, the whole show or maybe from something you just chatted with Stephen.
Well, I never really thought about the corporate partnership with this model like the way I met my husband. So I suppose I'll think about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was an interesting sort of parallel, right? I love the idea that he talked about, the opportunity, the friendship, and there's three things in there, but yeah, to kind of treat it like that. But listen,
it's nice to know. It's nice to know that this thing in my head with this money block, because it's been such a puzzle for quite a while. And it's nice to know that it was something that wasn't quite right, that I haven't got this issue, because it is very confusing when you're sat in the middle there and you know what you want to do. And then there's all these other people telling you you've got this and this and this wrong with you. And you're like, I don't want to be told. No, go and ask yourself that question. Here's a test. It'll answer you. And I'm like, I've been a bit confused on that one, to be honest. But yeah, it's nice to have that reassurance. So thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great insight. And for me, I'll tell you what I pulled out of, a lot of great things that I've pulled out from today. Jairus, first of all, what I loved about what you brought was this vulnerability part of it, where you're just basically saying, man, I need to figure this out because I need to help people in a leadership role. And Stephen kind of painted it out for you. So the vulnerability part of how vulnerability plays in leadership. I heard that in your conversation. I love that. And the fact that you can embrace that now and say, like you said, I got to figure out how. I love that. And Zara, again, I'll just go back to the same old price point. I'm in the same boat. It's like what Stephen talked about, trying to figure out what my value is all the time versus trying to figure out what my pricing model is. And it's one of those things where, again, it's a deep dive into asking people that are closest to you of what they get from you to understand what your value is. I'm working on it. Listen, I talk to Stephen more than most people, and I still have not got this figured out. So there's no disrespect. Stephen has told me multiple times. He's already given baby steps. So that's what I got out of that. And I appreciate that. So Stephen.
He seriously loves doing this to me, but anyway, we'll give it a crack.
I do.
We'll give it a crack. We'll give it a crack.
Here we go.
There you go. Cool. Jairus, you said that awareness and for me, what you said as you were speaking, awareness creates a desire for you to grow you and others. So the fact that you're aware creates a desire to grow you and others, because what you already are consciously aware before this show is you know exactly what you are. You just now are aware of how you can be that for others. In terms of Zara, romance your life and love, because the blocks that you've had in the past now become the foundations for you to serve from. It's so, so, so powerful. It's so powerful to not resent people who just think you've got a block, but actually thank them because they've given you a foundation to build from. And honesty, Pete, your value is how you reflect your congruent truth. So be aware of the romance of who you are in your life and be honest with it. Grow, you and others. Use the blocks of the past to be foundations of your future and reflect your congruent truth by being the best you.
Oh, my gosh almighty. Oh, that is... I just love this part. This is my favorite part. I mean, it always is. It just is. And I just love the way you're able to kind of piece that together of awareness and romance and honesty, and just some of the things that we talked about. Does that resonate with both of our guests here tonight? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic. Stephen, cool. I love that. Zara, Jairus,
so
we can't thank you guys enough. We so appreciate it. I hope you got something. Well, I hope you got as much as I did out of this. I always get so much out of this. And Zara, again, special prize to you for staying up in the middle of the night. We so appreciate that. And thank you for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Hey, just before the both of you go, just before the both of you go, if there's anything in the next 24 to 48 hours, or ever, by the way, but particularly in the next 24 to 48 hours, record a short video to me inside of Soul Shifters and whatever it is you want to ask me. Don't direct message me. Ask everyone, because the collective of who's in there needs to hear from you. I mean, Nadia stayed up in the middle of the night in Cape Town to hear from you too. So in the next 24, 48 hours particularly, if there's anything of clarity that comes to you that go, I should have asked Steve that, send me a video inside the group and I'll reply.